Well, hello, race fans. How are you today? Welcome to November. It is, the 2nd of November now. I believe it's Monday morning or Monday afternoon. It's been a pretty crazy time since we returned from the final round of the Road to Indy presented by Cooper Tires, of course, down at St. Petersburg for the Grand Prix. Kudos to everybody down there for getting that event in. Obviously, a lot of work to be done to get that temporary circuit redone, reset up so we can cap off the season. My name is Rob Howden, the Road to Indy Insider, and the voice of the Road to Indy presented by Cooper Tires. And I kind of get ready to dive back into it, I guess. During the COVID-19 shutdown, that kind of 3 or 4 months where we were all at home wondering what was happening, we pushed out a ton of content. I was on IG Live interviewing a lot of the drivers and eventually jumped on board this particular platform. We've been on Facebook Live, moving over here to YouTube now as well. We're going to get an opportunity here over the next essentially 4 months before we get going again. We started the first weekend of March. So we've got all November, December, January, February, a lot of content coming out. There's going to be a lot of things happening here in the off season. We're going to interview, first and foremost, I'm going to grab a bunch of drivers that competed this year in 2020 and some team owners as well. We'll get some media people. I'll wrangle in Steve Whittick as well. We'll talk a little more about maybe kind of a season review. But we're going to have an opportunity first to talk to drivers. Then we're going to come into the silly season. Steve and I will talk a lot about silly season. I'll come on with a more regular post of what's kind of happening. Once news does drop, we'll bring drivers, we'll bring team owners in to talk about that as well. A lot going on heading to 2021. And, of course, one of the big things we'll talk about in the next month for sure will be the return of Indy Lights. I think everybody's looking forward to getting that rolling. I got a couple of comments coming in here already. I'd love to see that. Elaine St. Clair, thank you very much, Elaine. I like to know that at least the comments are working. So that's great. I do apologize for the glasses and the glare. That's something I'll work on here pretty soon. All right, so let's jump into this thing because to get things underway, first and foremost, let's talk to the champions. Christian Rasmussen from J. Howard Driver Development, he's joining me here today. Stingray Rob a little bit later on in the week. Next week, I'm going to track down the two Rookie of the Year winners, Christian Brooks and Devlin DeFrancesco. Get a couple more guys in there as well. And if you're following my channel, I really, really appreciate it. If you can subscribe to the channel, it's awesome. Just hit the subscribe button. If you press the bell as well, then you'll understand that you're also going to be able to see all the notifications anytime I do something. So we appreciate that greatly. But again, thank you so much for joining me here, folks. Let's bring Christian in right now as we get set to go. Let me do this right. Christian Rasmussen, how are you?
Pretty good, Rob. How are you?
Good, man. Live from Denmark, too. You flew home, didn't you?
I did. Yeah, I landed in Denmark last Wednesday and been back in the cold since.
Well, first and foremost, congratulations on winning the championship. You made it exciting, as we talked about off air before we went rolling here, and we'll get into that in a second. But I know that you had time because you won the championship in New Jersey. You actually locked it in there. Then we head to St. Petersburg, so you already had it kind of locked in. Has it settled in? Like I know that you won 3 races last year. You win 9 this year. You win the championship. Has it kind of settled in and sunk in that you won the championship and you're working your way up the ladder now?
Well, I mean, it's definitely slowly beginning to. I don't think it's gonna sink in finally until I start the next season and really feel what I actually got out of it.
That's true, right? Yeah.
But yeah, definitely starting to sink in a little bit. It's just amazing. I'm just so happy for what this season has brought me, and I'm just happy that I came back to USF and tried again because that really paid off.
Let's give you a couple props here. So you're from Denmark, 20 years of age. Let's have I got the numbers down here because this is pretty impressive. You end up winning the championship by 41 points over Eduardo Barrichello. You had a big lead, shrunk down to a very tiny lead, and then you were able to get it done again. 9 wins, 10 podiums, 12 top 5 finishes, 8 poles, 7 fastest race laps, and the most laps led. And you're also now tied for second in all-time USF 2000 wins with 12. You're tied with Cal Kirkwood and J.R. Hildebrand. And, of course, the only guy that you weren't able to get closer, you could have had a chance to do it, but didn't quite do it. Chris Simmons, of course, one of the big wigs over at Chip Ganassi Racing with 13 wins during his career coming up. Let's talk about the record first. Does that mean anything to you, that you end up being that close to the record?
I mean, I think I think it would mean something to me if I have beaten it.
If you got it,
I was definitely looking to beat that at St. Petersburg. That didn't quite work out, but no, it's very cool for sure.
Yeah.
Just being up there on the all times list is definitely a cool achievement. So I think that shows everybody what's coming.
So let's look back at the 2020 season. Before we do that, let's kind of preface and go back to 2019 when, like so many drivers who are, in their rookie season, midway through, you really started stepping up, right? You were able to get the victory in Toronto. You backed it up with a victory at Mid-Ohio. Then you won at WeatherTech Raceway Laguna Seca to cap the season off. So you had 3 wins coming into the season. How much, when you started, when we were supposed to start at St. Petersburg, but then when we started at Road America, how much pressure did you put on yourself at that point, thinking that you wanted to win the championship, or that you had to win the championship?
I don't think it was the pressure. I really think that we were just like, if we take 2019, we were a new team in the series. Jay had never done USF 2000 before as a team owner.
Yeah.
I had never done USF 2000 before, so everything was new. So obviously it took a little while for us to settle in and get there and get the good results. That definitely came halfway through the season. We ended up actually being the ones with the most points out of everyone in the second half.
Second half, yeah.
Yeah. And from there on, we just wanted to continue that. We wanted to continue getting better. We wanted to continue learning, and then we just took it race for race, and that went pretty well.
Let me ask you about your confidence coming in. Obviously, like you said, you had the most points going in that second half of the season, and you were able to win at a couple of different tracks, which I think was great. You win on the streets of Toronto, then a couple of natural terrain road courses at Mid-Ohio and Laguna. Did you feel that confidence? Did you feel that momentum, not only for yourself, but for the entire team when we started the season in July at Road America?
For sure I did. And also, I mean, the season itself, definitely some momentum off there. But also, if you look back at the Chris Griffiths test, I was the quickest in every single session. So definitely a huge confidence boost going into the season. But at the end of the day, you don't know what you have until you start the race weekend.
That's it, right?
New people can come in. I mean, there's so many factors that play a part in your success, right? So coming to Road America and winning both races and pole positions and all this, that was definitely the biggest confidence booster out of everything. Because that's when you know that you're actually racing your competition that you're going to be racing for the rest of the year.
Yeah.
And I won in pretty dominant style. I think 8 and 12 seconds.
Yeah.
So that was definitely the biggest confidence booster out of everything that we talked about.
Yeah, that's interesting because really you won last year, but the unknown was how good your competition was going to be this year, how you stacked up against the new drivers that were coming into the series. So for you to be able to win those first couple of races, you're like, okay, I'm good. I can beat these guys and we can go on to win. So you end up winning 6 races in a row. Let me just give me a little taste of how that felt. Like, did you to be able to win all those, wow, what a start to the season.
I mean, you feel unstoppable. You feel unstoppable. So I don't know. I don't think that was what hurt me. But you definitely are full of confidence and you just want to get on with the season. Or I just wanted to get on with the season.
Right. Yeah. Let's do another race. Let's do another race.
Right.
Let's just keep racing now. That's right.
And we did keep on racing.
We did. You're right.
The schedule was so condensed. Yeah. Which I actually liked, also being over there for the season, that it was so condensed. So we just went from race weekend to race weekend to race weekend. Also, I was coaching in F4 for a little bit in between the races, so that was even more time on the racetracks for me.
Wow.
Right?
Okay.
So
well, you immersed yourself in it. That's good.
Yeah, I did. So it was a cool season. Definitely one that I'm gonna look back on in the future and think that was a pretty cool year.
You know, I've said to a couple of people, I've been in a couple of conversations, Christian, about the fact that you had that kind of dip in the season, a little bit kind of like what Braden Eves had the year before, where he won a bunch of races, then dipped down a little bit, then came on strong at the end. I think it's going to be really good for you as a young driver that you were challenged and were able to rebound. before we talk about the rebound, let's talk about Indianapolis. You struggled a bit at Indianapolis. And then, of course, you had that issue at the start where the engine sets are shut off and everybody went by you. That must have been tough for you mentally to be able to see all that happen, to have all this big point lead, to watch other guys get points, to Barrichello with a couple of wins. Can you talk about how you managed yourself mentally going into the next rounds?
Yeah, I mean, Indianapolis was actually a tough weekend because we went there for the Chris Griffiths test. We really found something that worked. We were super quick, and then we came back, and then what we had figured out at Chris Griffiths just didn't work.
Okay.
So we had to figure out a completely new setup for the car on the whole weekend, and we were just struggling with figuring that out.
Yeah.
And finally, as I think that we started to get it in the last race, I actually think we had a pretty strong car. Even in the second race, I think we had a strong car. And then we had an ECU failure. So I just got my car didn't pull in the start, and then I got hit from behind and had to go into the pits and get the car fixed. So it was definitely frustrating seeing that point lead shrink down to way less than it was before the weekend.
So let's talk about going to Mid-Ohio, because really, if I look at it, you probably only made one mistake on the racetrack all year long. Otherwise, you were almost flawless throughout the year. You went off at the start of the race, going up out of the Thunder Valley, and went off there. What do you recall from that? Was it just the track itself? Was it the track pretty slippery? What happened? Cold tires?
It was it was definitely tricky conditions. It had rained the night before, so it was drying up. You see all the IndyCar guys was on the track and they were flying off the track the session before us, and so we knew that it was going to be tricky, but it was definitely starting to dry up, and most of the track was actually dry. So we started the race on slick tires, and obviously we warmed up, and I could feel that there wasn't a lot of grip in the track, but I don't know, I think I got greedy. I on the first lap I took away from pole, and I pulled a pretty big gap on the first lap. So I should have just realized that, said, all right, I already after lap 1 have a pretty good gap, and should have pulled back, but I didn't, and that hurt me.
It's a learning experience. It's a learning opportunity, right?
I really think it was, because when I look back at the season, I don't want to say that was the best weekend, but I think that was the weekend where I learned a very valuable lesson that's gonna help me in the rest of my career. So it was a very important weekend, even though the results wasn't where we wanted them to be. But you learn a lot in about winning and being out front, and you gotta be able to learn how to do that. But I think where you learn the most is when things are tough, and you just gotta keep working at it. And that's what we did at Mid-Ohio.
Okay, so let's talk. I'll throw a little shot up here. People know what your hot rod looks like. Let's talk a little bit about after those couple of weekends. You didn't have that bad of a weekend at Indianapolis, like you said. A couple of good results, then the ECU failure that gives you a DNF essentially, at the bottom of near the tail of the pack, and then you have some issues at Mid-Ohio. How did you deal with mentally? Like, did you sit down with Jay? What did you guys do going into the next event where you said, hey, listen, we can still get this job done. Let's get back to the form we had earlier in the season.
Yeah, we knew that we were quick, and we knew that when our package and I perform at its best, then we know that we can beat the other guys. So we know that we're good enough. We just have to figure it out and continue doing that, So I'm not I think the mental part is definitely important, but it wasn't like I was in a huge dip in my mental confidence or whatever. I knew that I was quick enough, and that might come across a bit cocky, but
no.
At the end of the day, as a driver, you got to believe in your ability, and that's what I do. So coming off Mid-Ohio, we were still leading the championship. So it wasn't like we were on
That's
the
it.
back foot. So we're still in front of the other guys, and we know that when the car's quick and when I'm performing at my best, then that we are able to compete for wins.
Yeah.
So I think it was just doing all the same stuff that we have been doing all weekend, all year, sorry. And yeah, like I said, just continue working at it, and that really worked. So
I'm a big proponent of people staying 2 years in each level, right? That was kind of the common thought, where you learned 1 year, you go win the championship the next year, all the way up the ranks. Now, we've had a couple of drivers, Oliver Askew, Kyle Kirkwood, being some of the Renus VK, who have kind of fast-tracked through. They were able to get the race wins. They were able to get championships and move forward. I think if you can't do that, the 2-year program, even 3 years, if you're young enough, is fantastic. Let me ask you this question, because I always talk to drivers about how different they are. They get frustrated now, and I say, listen, you're a first-year driver here, and you're trying to go against Christian Rasmussen, who's already been that first-year driver, right? Like he's a year ahead of you already. How much more, after your first year, how much more, let's just say, how much more, I don't use the word capable, how much more prepared were to deal with the struggles of this year after what you did last year? Because I don't know that last year as a rookie driver in the series, you maybe would have had the same mental fortitude to be able to deal with something like that.
No, I'm a huge believer in that as well. I have been in junior Formula racing for a long time now because of that. I think the way that we look at my career and how the best way to progress through the ranks is that you want to be ready for what's coming. You want to compete at a level where you're able to win. And that's always been my philosophy. And I've never gone into a championship without thinking that I was able to win. That being said, that hasn't happened in Formula cars. This is my first championship in a race car, but I think it's finally starting to pay off.
But there was still, even though you didn't win the championship last year, you had the belief that you could win, and you won races, right? You didn't win the championship.
I did,
but you won 3 races, man. That was big,
right? And that was just, it was a great season for me, 2019, just because it just learned me about the series. I put a layer on all the tracks that I was gonna race on next year, being 2020.
Yeah.
So, and you just learn how everything works. You know how the stewards work. You know what all the rules are, because that can also be a bit different, especially coming from Europe.
Yeah.
So you start to know how everything works, and you start to feel comfortable and confident as well. You just start to get certain like a schedule in on the weekend. You gotta get your tech stuff here, and you gotta do this there, and
everything, right?
Right. And you just start to get that laid down, and I think that just helps you in the future.
You know, it's funny you said that. I interviewed Jimmy Johnson on pit lane at St. Petersburg. He was obviously going to run with Chip Ganassi Racing next year on the road courses of the NTT IndyCar Series. And he said exactly the same thing. He literally said, I got to get used to where I get onto the racetrack, how I get off the racetrack, the vocabulary between me and there's a lot to, even for a guy like Jimmy Johnson, there's a ton to learn if you're a first-year driver in the series.
It is. There is. And I think when you just have that down, that just makes you able to calm down and just focus on the job that you got to do, which is racing.
Here's one thing I want to bring up, and I'll pop the picture up here in a second. You'll have this on your resume, which I like, and I like when people can do this. As I said, you've won at the street circuit, right? You won in Toronto last year. Multi race wins at on natural terrain road courses. You're a race winner as well on the oval. Lucas Oil Raceway, Freedom 75. Let me bring the shot up here. This is you battling it out with Christian Brooks. You're on the low side. Give me your thoughts on winning there.
That was cool. I mean, I really already last year, I loved the street circuit, the ovals.
Yeah.
Last year we had a tough weekend. We had a very tough qualifying. I qualified really towards the back of the pack. I think I was P16 and ended up starting P15 or something because of but actually we had a good race. We had a good race car, and I moved up and finished in, I think, 6th in the race. So
that's fantastic.
Right, and everybody is saying that you can't pass on an oval and all this, and we just had an amazing race. So already from 2019, I enjoyed the oval. I think it's a definitely from a European standpoint, that's definitely overlooked.
Yeah.
Because if you ask an European driver, they'll just say they just turn left, right?
Yeah, I
But
don't
they
want
just
that.
go so much more into it than that, and there's
Yeah.
so much. I mean,
Just the small stuff, right?
technique
Yeah.
that you gotta use for driving on the oval is just completely different from what you do on a road course. So that's also cool for me, actually having a great weekend in 2019 and then being able to win, only being my second year on an oval.
Yeah.
So I think that was a cool weekend. Qualified pole. I was the last one to qualify.
That's right.
I just got it done, you know.
That's
So
awesome.
it was an awesome weekend, and I really look forward to putting another oval on my resume for next year.
Before we talk a little bit about wrap it up with the banquet, the championship, and then talk 2021. Interesting, obviously. I think I said this. I'm not sure. I think I might have said either on the PA. I'm not sure if I said it at the banquet or not. But you're the first ever Danish champion we've ever had in the Road to Indy. There have not been a lot of Danish drivers who have run in the U.S. And I want to say it might just be Jan Magnussen. I don't know if anybody else has actually come over here on a significant basis. What are your thoughts? Did you have a hero growing up in road racing, like in Formula Car racing, when you were a young kid coming into karting?
I mean, I'll say I've always looked up to Ayrton Senna.
Okay.
I think just because that's, I don't know, it's kind of a common thing to say, but it's just all the stuff that he did
right.
for the racing community, but also for everyone else. He was very into helping people, and I just always thought that was cool. So that's definitely my racing hero for sure.
What's the feedback? You've been home. Is the Danish motorsports media are they latching onto your story at all, or is it are we still pretty low on the motorsports totem pole?
No, I think the whole European racing scene is starting to open their eyes for the US. I think in a long time, I think European drivers have. I mean, they're obviously focused on getting to F1, and then if you want to go to F1, you could argue that US isn't the place where you want to be. You want to be where you're racing at for the most time, and that's just not the US, right? So kind of not had the attention that it maybe needs to, but it's definitely starting to grow in popularity, and I think you will see more and more European drivers go to the US, which you also have seen for the last couple of years. More European drivers coming into the Road to Indy and coming into the US racing.
So let's move and we'll wrap up 2020. Talk about the banquet. Obviously, we normally do it on a Monday night after the finale weekend. As you know, you were there last year. We were at Laguna Seca, beautiful venue. It's a day after, but it kind of calms down a bit. They get dressed up. We actually did it the night of Sunday. We all wrapped up on Sunday, got home, got cleaned up. What do you remember from the banquet? Because obviously you get a chance. I know that it's not the easiest thing. Usually we have Indy Lights there, so there's more people doing speeches. It was only just you and Stingray Robb, really, after Dan Anderson, that did speeches. What do you still feeling? What do you remember from that evening? Obviously, it was a big day for you.
It was definitely a big day. I just, for the first part, just sat down, enjoyed the show. Was looking sharp in my suit there.
Look at that! Look how good you look. Yeah.
Look at that. I always enjoy the banquets because you just see another side of people.
Everybody.
You walk up against each other for a whole year. Everyone's wearing their team gear, and you never really get to see that part of them.
That's true.
So it's definitely cool. Obviously, being one of the centers of attention, being the championship.
That's it.
And yeah, it's just a cool night. I got to make my little speech. wasn't as long as my fellow champion, but
That's true.
I think I got everything set that I wanted to, and yeah, just enjoyed the night.
Let's talk about a couple of things there. Obviously, you have a great team surrounding you. We'll get to Jay and the whole crew there in a second. But you also, it was interesting. You spent so much time over here, as you said. You were at our races. You were at F4 races, coaching with Jay's crew there. You spent a lot of time with the Bogle family, and I think that's really cool that they kind of took you in as like another son alongside Christian, who of course got the most passes award of the year.
Yeah. The hard charger,
yeah, the hard charger, which was fantastic for Christian. He had a really good season. Talk about that a little bit. You're away from home, but you're able to have this kind of family that you're with the entire time. I think that was a really special thing, I think, for you.
For sure. I think no matter where you are, I think it's very important to have a base. And they really created that for me this year. So I'm so grateful for them for, like you say, almost taking me in as their son, because that's what they did.
Yeah.
I lived with them in between all the races. I followed Christian to the F4 races that he did for the first part of the season, and just enjoyed the US lifestyle. No, I really enjoyed staying down in New Orleans with the Bogle family, and getting to travel with them. They have a big RV that they drive around for the races for the most part. So got to experience that part as well.
Nice.
And yeah, just awesome people.
So let's talk about the team now. Jay Howard, obviously veteran driver. Jay and I talked after the banquet about, I remember when he first came over from England to race in what was then the Cooper Tires Z-Tech Championship, the F2000 Championship, won a bunch of races there. And I was able to interview him as a young guy come up the ranks. But now he's a team owner. He's kind of a mentor for you to a certain extent, running your team. How did overall the season, were you guys or are you guys a really super tight knit team underneath there?
Yes, we are, and I think we're more knitted than normally a team would be. I think we have an amazing team chemistry in Jay Howard driver development, between the drivers, between Jay as a driver coach, mentor, whatever you want to call it, and our engineer Lewis as well as our other engineers. So we have an amazing bond. Also, me being the third year with the team now, you also just develop. I mean, it's a friendship, and it's just cool being on the weekends, joking with each other, but can also be serious and when we need to. And I really only have good things to say about Jay Howard driver development, Jay Howard, my engineer Lewis, because they're doing just such an amazing job. Jay only being his second year in the Road to Indy, his second year in USF 2000, already have a championship under his belt. I think that's a huge achievement, and I'm very proud to be a part of that.
All right, so we'll put a cap on 2020. I'm going to ask you the $1 million question now. Obviously, we're looking forward to 2021. You're going Indy Pro 2000 racing with a scholarship from Anderson Promotions, the whole crew, Cooper Tires, everybody. Where are we? Are we? Do you know where you're going yet? Do you know what team you're going? When are you going to be back in the U.S.? When are you going racing? Here come the questions. Get ready.
Yeah.
What's the plan right now?
No, like you said, right now it's silly season. We haven't signed for a team yet.
Right.
We're looking at every possible opportunity. Obviously, I have my relationship with Jay, and we'll see what he can do for me. But me as a driver, I gotta act and do what's best for me.
Yeah.
But we'll see. I mean, I'm having a look around, see what different opportunities that I can get, and then we'll take it as we get a little closer.
So is there any timeline that you've put down? Like, is there a test like, hey, I got to be done by, we're testing something, potentially testing in December, or are you kind of just biding your time right now?
No, for sure. We want to start testing as soon as possible. But we want to figure out where we're going to drive first. So we'll see what happens.
Well, listen, congratulations on a tremendous season. Up and downs. You made it exciting for us, as we talked about before.
Yeah.
And a big finish for you. I think that was the key thing. And I think it's going to help you moving forward to be able to get over what you did, to be able to still win that championship, clinch it early, which was huge for you and the team. I just want to congratulate you. I look forward to following you up into Indy Pro 2000 next year.
Thank you, Rob. Been great talking to you all year.
Thanks, Christian. Well done. Let's get rid of Christian here. What a tremendous young driver this guy is, folks. I'm telling you. Again, that second year program, right? I talk all the time about that second year. You want to stay and be able to race for a championship, race for race wins. I think too many drivers move up the ranks too early and they end up getting stalled. I like that Christian came back after winning those 3 races. He could easily have moved after winning 3 races, but he came back, wanted to win that championship. And now people know who he is, right? This is a guy that's now a champion in the Road to Indy. And of course, as I said, another, I think, a feather in the cap. He's won at all 3 venues: street circuit, natural terrain road course, and on the oval as well. So look for him to be pretty good when we get to Worldwide Technology Raceway at Gateway and back to Lucas Oil in 2021. Looking forward to getting everything rolling here. I do want to thank everyone for jumping on board with us and obviously coming to these shows on YouTube. A lot more to come. If you are with YouTube, please do me a favor, subscribe to the channel. It'll help me out, get more people being able to see this. So I would really appreciate that. Thank you so much for doing that for us, for sure. Otherwise, let's cap things up here. I've already been in contact with Stingray Rob. I think he was out hunting the last couple of days. I'm going to get him probably on Friday. I've got some e-karting new stuff to do as well, some broadcasts there. Another one of my Book It podcasts coming out. That's a podcast that I'm using to talk to people that actually aren't in the Road to Indy or yet in the Road to Indy. I'm going to be targeting a bunch of IndyCar drivers throughout that. I got a really cool list of people that I want to get for the Book It podcast. A lot of it's going to be connected still. It's obviously motorsports. It's going to be mostly connected with open wheel racing, but we may stray a bit every once in a while. Thursday, I'm hooking up with Mac Clark. It's a young guy from actually really close to me here. Lives in Campbellville, Ontario, Canada. I've watched him come up through the ranks. Great young Canadian driver. His dad was a fantastic karter as well. But Mac has been working his way into F1600 and won the championship this year in the Ontario F1600 series. He's going to join me on the Book It podcast on Thursday. Watch my social media for that. Now, as always, follow me on Twitter at Rob Howden. Instagram is at Rob Howden Racing. And you can find me on Facebook at Rob Howden as well. And Road to Indy Insider, RTI_Insider on Twitter as well. Folks, thank you so much for joining me. I really appreciate it. Christian Rasmussen, congratulations. Thank you for joining me as well, all the way from Denmark. We're going to cap things off, folks. I appreciate it. Book it.